Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, we hit the midway point of the regular season with a moment to breathe and consider what is the headline of this Red Raider football team so far.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again, man, as we are kicking off an open week. For somebody that just wants to see more of this that you got rolling, not so thrilled with it, but I know it is going to serve your football team well, and we will get into some of what's going to happen this week as far as getting on the mend as the injury list has continued to gather a few more, and did so again on Saturday in Tucson. Also want to get to some of what you have achieved so far this season as it relates to some young guys thrown into the fire and obviously being asked to grow up very quickly. Feel like we have seen quite a bit of that. But as we hit this open week before you come back to the Jones and you host the Baylor Bears, I'm curious what stands out to you as far as, say, a headline for Texas Tech after 6 weeks, or what is the narrative of Red Raider football right now as you got off to a bit of a rocky start first couple of weeks, but then you really seem to sort of find your stride, and that doesn't mean it's all been easy breezy, clearly, but you're stacking up wins, and you're doing it now in league play, 3-0 for the fifth time only in program history in the Big 12 Conference. And you're rolling a bit. So how would you describe Texas Tech at this point in the year as we hit a bit of a respite?
I remember after that woeful night versus Abilene Christian when you held on, but it was not pretty. And there was a lot of social media talk. You saw it. I saw it. This team's not going to win, but just, 3 or 4 more games the rest of the year. We're in serious trouble. I mean, you saw it like I did. And I think that what I would say to your question, I think it's if you have a better word, I'm all ears, but it's improvement, it's development. It's one of those things, if you could mesh that together, because it's just been a steady dose of, getting better at some of these things, figuring out your identity, the defensive improvement, all while not on paper, not perfect. And you're having to do it and with different pieces, and you're having to mix and match and having to switch guys' positions at the beginning of the week because certain guys are missing or in the middle of a game, and you just keep figuring out ways to do it. And then I think offensively, you've been able to establish your run game early enough in these games to where these play action shots work. It's looked good at times, all of it. But I just think it's just a steady improvement, and you are outlasting teams. You are making fewer mistakes. You are all the things. I mean, good football's got to travel. All the stuff that Joey has talked about. Like, we got to be able to play better defense if we want to win on the road. We got to be able to run the ball if we want to set up some of these things that we want to do. We've got to, and so you're speaking some of these things into existence. I think your offensive line situation is settled in. It's not all world, but it's been very serviceable. I think that I think your coaches also know your flaws. They know they don't have a perfect team or experience level with the guys they're trotting out there, but I think that your coordinators are and I'll say this too before I go further on that. Your special teams has been really, really good. I mean, and when you think about how much impact with the returns earlier in the year and what you've done with your specialists, with like, the 2-point conversion that you just snuck one in, and kind of altered the way that game was played. I mean, I think special teams definitely deserves a tip of the cap getting to this point as well. But it's just a steady improvement is what I see. And again, there's so much more room to grow and get better and to improve upon. But this is college football, and guys are going to get hurt or something's going to happen, and you've got to be able to do this with different looks, and that's what coaching is, and sometimes it's easier than others. But I think to their credit, they keep figuring out ways to do it. And boy, you'd love to have a redo, and Taj could play and Pullman. You'd love to have a redo where Braylon Lux could have played against ACU to start it out and some of these key pieces. But when certain guys have played, you've been very difficult to compete against. I think Joey said this after the win in Tucson, when 2, 28, and 10 are all playing and are healthy, we're a tough out. And he's talking about obviously Barron, Taj, and Jacob Rodriguez, but I would add number 0 there with Lux. And, it's just, but there's a long list of cast of characters, but that's just kind of steady improvement. And you knew you were going to get better on defense. And some will joke, well, it couldn't get any worse, but you were so young. You've altered some of what you've had to trot out there in the middle of games and all that stuff, but you just keep getting better. I mean, what was the talk going into the Arizona game? Joey was very outspoken about playing patty cake at the line of scrimmage with his defensive line. It's frustrating. We don't have any kind of pass rush. And guys, if we're just not going to be any better than this, let's just drop 8 and just screw it. We just won't rush the passer. Obviously, he's not being real, but he was just frustrated with it. And what did you see? You saw improvement. You saw a lot of pressure, whether it was schemed up or guys just playing really hard. So I just would, I don't know if that's a cop out, but I think it's just an improvement. That's kind of what I see so far.
Yeah, and it's I think already coming into this year, I had some confidence in the McGuire era that his teams get better as the year goes on, which I have not had in hardly any of the previous administrations, going all the way back to Mike Leach. I mean, maybe the last time that I felt like, okay, in October and November, you're playing better football than you were, say, in September. So we've seen that over the last couple of years, and it's been great to see early on this season. Defensively, Tim DeRuyter is as proven of a coach, I think, as anybody on your staff. So you figured out, man, if he can get anything out of his Jimmies and Joes, he's going to find a way to throw out something better as the weeks move forward. So I like that as a headline, and I think it certainly is fitting. I think I would just add to that the word toughness, because I think, Tech is tough as a $2 steak as you're rolling through these early weeks. And a lot of that is physically speaking, which is a great thing. But I think a lot of that is intangibly speaking as well. What you got between the ears, what you got down in your gut. Because obviously when we're talking about so many of these one-score situations, you have got to be resilient. It is no shock, no secret, I guess maybe to some, I don't know if you're new to football, but that adversity is going to strike at some point in time. We talk about it all the time. There's going to be adversity every single week. There are just a few things as it relates to adversity that will probably determine the outcome. One, how much are you creating for yourself, which is not ever good. And 2, how are you responding to self-created or opponent-created adversity? And we've seen Texas Tech respond very, very well. So an improving football team, a tough football team, I think is what we're looking at as we look back on the first half of the regular season. And Chris,
you realize you may have seen this. You realize there's only 4.
First, today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. And when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And they're not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which make it the best place to find the right hire. Gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. And LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive for you. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates to choose from. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within only 24 hours. That's lightning fast. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier as well. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier. and quicker, plus more effective. So post your job for free today at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
You realize there's only 4 Power 4 teams in the country that are 3-0 in their league. The Red Raiders, the Aggies, I believe it's Clemson, and then it's Miles Price's Indiana Hoosiers.
Right.
That's it. That's it. And obviously you're going to have a bye week, and some others may join that list next week, but who would have thought that? I mean, who would have thought that? And the funny thing about your record and the games we would have, or the conversations we would have had in the summer, I think that you and I maybe would have talked about a 5-1 start as a distinct possibility. I'd be willing to bet you that you and I both probably said or hinted at, you can be 5-1, but I bet we were thinking that maybe you beat Washington State and maybe you lose to Arizona. You know, you kind of play that game a little bit, and you're with what we thought we knew at the time. And yet this 5-1 is a lot better, because if that's the game you were playing, beating Arizona is a lot better than beating Washington State, because it puts you on that little short list that I've seen floating around out there for your conference race, which is that's what matters the most. But you're in theory, you're doing what we thought you could do. It's getting to this point has been a little tenuous, tricky, stressful. It's none of this is easy. Winning football games is just hard. There's just so much that goes into it. So many bad things can happen. What is the saying about football is a random set of events and setbacks, and it's just how you deal with it. And so far so good to this point. But yeah, and you look at, we mentioned halfway through, but you look at your schedule with what's happening elsewhere. I mean, TCU, that game still makes me nervous because they've got talent. They just keep turning the ball over in droves. But, like, does going to Stillwater just scare you to death like it would have a month ago? No. West Virginia coming here may look a bit tougher than maybe we would have thought. Going to Ames is going to be maybe the toughest game you have left. I mean, so it's just funny how so many things change with what we thought we knew, and that's the beauty of the sport. That's why so many people tune in each week. Go Vanderbilt.
Well, and that's and that's also that's also why I really just shy away from looking ahead. I mean, we're always getting questions from Matador mobsters or otherwise, like, "Hey, what are the losses that are still out there on the schedule?" Well, how the hell do I know? I mean, every week is a new week. Every Saturday is a new Saturday. Arkansas can't beat Oklahoma State, who got housed by West Virginia, and then they do what to Tennessee? Yeah. I mean, there's so many examples like that all across the country every single week. So, I mean, does Oklahoma State still look scary? Maybe. I mean, you got to go on the road, and typically Mike Gundy's teams get better as the season goes on. I don't know. I just don't really get into playing that game because every Saturday is a new Saturday. And I have been saying over the last couple of weeks, you're going to see wild swings from Saturday to Saturday, maybe aside from the very best in the nation or the very worst in the nation. Well, I guess I was wrong about that too, because the very best supposedly in the nation also saw a wild swing over the weekend. I guess that's just kind of college football as we sit here. But I know that we're going to be in some more situations like what we've seen so far. Very tight contests, and whether or not you can find a way to get it done still remains to be determined. But as we talked about on our reaction episode, you have thrived in some of these one-score situations, most of these one-score situations. So that's a good way to be, and has us feeling good and ambitious about what you could do for the remainder of the year. As I said, from an entertainment value standpoint as a fan, I wish we were back out there on Saturday, but I know the team is going to be served well by this little breather here before you're back to the Jones. Because, man, as we also look back to the first half of this season, the injury list has always been a busy topic of conversation. I mean, you go to the extreme, losing a guy like Vinny Scurry, who we are not going to see back. You've lost your arguable best player for one game in Taj Brooks, who did thankfully return. The defensive list is insane. I mean, you were without Amir Washington in Tucson. You were without Isaac Smith. You were without Chapman Lewis. Jordan Sanford in and out. Jalen Peoples, another depth piece as far as the defensive back is concerned. Charles Esters misses the first however many games of the year before he can get going. I could go on and on and on, but it is no secret that I think this is one football program that's probably thinking, yes, thank you. We will take an open weekend as you try to get back on the mend. And I'm just trying to figure out now, like, how do I even prioritize that list? I didn't even mention Braylon Lux, who was also on that list. Like, who do I really want to see feeling good coming out of it? If my answer can't be all of them, which is obviously what we want, but I think about like a guy like Amir Washington, who I thought coming into the week had been kind of your most consistent guy winning some battles at the line, even though it hadn't just been, a padding stats kind of season for him yet. But maybe Chapman Lewis is at the top of that list for some folks. I don't know, but the injury conversation has been a very, very busy one so far this year. And for that reason, if no other, very thankful for the open week so you can get back on the mend, right?
Yeah. If anything, you just need a mental break. That's the beautiful thing about the way this schedule sets up and about the Big 12 and giving everybody multiple bye weeks. I hated seasons, and it seemed like it happened to you so often where you had a bye week in like mid to early September, and then your next bye week was like the weekend of Thanksgiving or something.
Right. Like after your last regular season game.
Yeah. It's like, well, that's, like, screw you, schedule maker. Like that serves zero purpose to anybody. But this allows you as a coaching staff to break up your season in thirds or fourths or kind of whatever, or halves, however you want to look at it, and kind of put it in segments, and keep your kids focused on the here and the now. But yeah, you definitely need, some time off. And so what this bye week will look like is, I think early this week, you're going to give your older guys, your travel squad, if you will, some time off of the field. They'll do a lot of weight room. They'll do some things later in the week on the field and things like that. But this is a huge week for your young kids. And there's a lot knocking on the door, man. So what happens is when you deal with attrition, and you have highly ranked recruiting classes like you do, you're going to start to see the bye week used as, we got to get some of these guys ready. And I don't know what the status is of Chapman Lewis. It's hamstring related, and he's not on the trip, and he didn't ever really even attempt to come back in the game versus Cincinnati. You may need an alternate plan for safety going forward. Then Devin Cromwell moves over, and then he was lost for a bit before he came back. But like Malik Esquera, was in Tucson. Peyton Morgan. I'll tell you the guy. I'm going to mention his name to you, and you're going to say, who is this? We talked about him on the broadcast briefly, and I stood near him on the sideline. This is one of the most physically impressive looking humans that you've got on your football team. There's a defensive end / outside linebacker named Eddie Smith that is a true freshman that Coach McGuire had said to us that we relayed on the broadcast that is just wrecking the offensive line's chops every day. This is a young player that has just gotten better. He's 6'6", 270, and he's 18 years old. And I had one of Joey's best friends that is at every game come by me in Tucson and go, who's that guy? I was like, that's Eddie Smith. He goes, where do they grow a specimen like that? And I was like, yeah. I said, I think you're going to start to see, Coach McGuire is because we had already talked about it on the broadcast, and because part of this is because no Isaac, no Amir. We already know about Spencer and Adedire, and you're just thinner there. And I think Isaac Smith was a head issue, is what they listed it as, and Amir was a non-football related issue. What does that look like? Surely with the bye week, you would like to think that some of that gets sorted out, but if not, I mean, there's a guy like Eddie Smith that this week, this bye week, will be really big for somebody like that. And your safety options that are true safeties. Because when Tim DeRuiter was asked about like Malik Esquera and Peyton Morgan, he's like, they haven't practiced with us since August. They've been running scout team and we don't really see them. They're trying to give a good look to the offense. They're not really with us, with the guys that I'm going to be playing with, but that may be slightly changing now. And that's what these weeks will be really big for, is some of those younger kids, because you just don't know, as we've seen, when you're going to go, hey, man, it'd be fun to develop you and redshirt you, but we need you, and we need you right now. And we're trying to win a Big 12 championship. So please go play your best. And I hope you listen in all the meetings, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's just reality.
Well, and I wanted to wrap up the conversation talking about like the young guys that have already been in the fray.
That too.
And how they've grown. But now it seems like, okay, here's the next wave of young guys that are going to have to grow up over these final 6 games of the regular season. But as for the first batch of hatchlings, first, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Never sweat buying tickets to your favorite event again with Gametime. It's always a breeze using the Gametime app, where you're going to find the best last-minute deals, and I love being able to scout out a view from any seat before pulling the trigger. Of course, you're always doing it at the lowest price, guaranteed. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it begins, which means you can finish off that final brat, that final beer at your own pace at the tailgate, because Gametime is the place to find last-minute seats to any event. Gametime gives you the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets, but not just fast, also secure and simple to use. So right now, download the Gametime app and create an account and use our promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today for last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. But as for the first batch of hatchlings that we saw come out early on this season,
like Macho is a great example.
Absolutely. Well, I think, probably, and we're considering some of these second-year guys, obviously, as young guys too, guys that were in the fire last year but coming back as sophomores now, because I think, for my money's worth, and I could be forgetting somebody, but probably Chapman Lewis was kind of at the top of that list as far as dudes that have really started to look like dudes, but he's not the only one on the list. But, man, I really feel like you've made a lot of progress with these guys just through these first 6 weeks. I mean, you remember, I'm sure, like I do, going back to those first few weeks and talking about Texas Tech's standing compared to others across the country. Is it related to first or second year players and the number of snaps that they were playing for you? Again, a lot of that happening on the defensive side of the football. But I got to tell you, as we're sitting here heading towards the middle of October, they don't feel so young to me anymore. I think a lot of them have grown up in a hurry, some of them having to deal with some injury issues, obviously, that you're hoping will give them a chance to keep growing. But that youth project that has been underway, I think you've seen a lot of progress with them to this point in the season.
Yeah, and it needed. I mean, you need that progress because you still have some big time offensive skill left on your schedule that you're going to see some good quarterback receiver combinations and some problems on your schedule. So, but I think Tim and Coach Yates and the folks on the back end, because there's really not like a rabbit back there that like is the glue. Chapman was kind of trying to channel that, and he's not there right now, and I don't know when he'll be back. Baskerville, I think is started to play really good in the last couple of weeks after struggling a bit there, and he just is a nice steady dose of experience and all that. But Brennan Jordan Sanford, those guys have been just really solid pieces to the back end. I think your corner rotation that you've had to get into, because Ashton Hampton is now like in the third or fourth kind of corner situation because of no Peoples and no, Lux has been missing some time. So it's just been interesting to see kind of those guys, try to catch up and play.
I don't think, Chris, really I've seen something like this that I can compare it to in many, many years, if any other years, where you've seen guys that were so green be called on to play so much. And maybe you just go back to last year and you look at some of those that were thrown in the fire and it's somewhat comparable. But obviously, as we move forward, going to have to continue to count on them. And you are so right about what you still got coming up, which is still the meat of your Big 12 schedule. I mean, you've got some of the best offensive weapons and skill position players, and obviously some of the best defensively still to come. So you have handled yourself well, represented yourself well as you roll through the first half of the regular season, but there are no laurels to rest on just yet, right? Because you've still got everything out in front of you. And you've done what you need in the first 6 games to put yourself in a position to still think about these big opportunities that you would like to pursue as the season rolls on. But it will only continue to get tougher from here. I feel like we've kind of been just sort of, I don't know, trending upwards as far as the difficulty is concerned. And obviously that will continue, and you better not sleep when Baylor comes to town acting like that's just going to be snooze fest. And obviously we know what's on the other side of that as well.
Yeah, I think the goal coming into the year, we were, are you a Big 12 title contender? Most were saying, you're very middle of the pack. But I think our goal, like, hey, what's the record going to be? Do you have us winning this many games? I think my standard answer there was, you want to be playing meaningful football into November, relevant, and you've set yourself up to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You've got, a situation where you don't have much margin for error, or anything, but you've got a nice start here, and you've got, and none of these games are going to be easy. If you start looking at and playing that game on paper, win, whatever, I just think you're setting yourself up, and that's not what you want your team to do either. Boy, you got to stay in the moment and want to know every day, want to know every week. All that kind of talk is very, very real. But yeah, I just I did like your word about toughness, because I think there is something to that, whether it's physical or mental or both. I kind of said improvement, you said toughness, but I think that's really well stated on your part too, just about how you've gotten here. And I think what's really fun is the aspect of, this isn't like a heavily tilted, this aspect of your team is so dominant and it's just carrying you. No, it's it's very team oriented right now. I mean, it's a little bit of everything, different players, different sides of the ball, different, wrinkles schematically, whatever it is. I just think that's what's really fun. And it's not all that unexpected, but I think other people outside of Lubbock and Tech, fan base are probably going, whoa, because you haven't done anything yet. And as James Blanchard and Joey always say after these games over, Saturday's over with, man. Nobody cares. What are you going to do the next Saturday? Well, I tell you what, I'm going to do this next Saturday. Nothing. And I'm going to sit back and enjoy it, because nothing bad can happen to the Red Raiders.
That's right.
And they can sit back and enjoy a big win after going on the road and getting back at all hours of the morning. And yeah, man. But yeah, hope the decompression for a few days is really good for everybody, because I think certainly needed.
No decompressing for Locked On Texas Tech. It will be the most electric open week anyone's ever seen on the Locked On Podcast Network. I was thinking to your point about the team, as I was watching the game on Saturday night, I'm sort of thinking, and I guess this is more in a negative connotation, which I disagreed with myself shortly afterwards. I was just arguing with myself on Saturday. It had been a long day. I got a little loosey-goosey with my pacing early on and just had to bear through. But I was thinking, is this team just bipolar? Like they've got a different personality like every week or every other week or something like that. And you would sort of think, well, that's not good if that's the case. Then I thought, no, dumbass, they're a team. And different games call on different portions of the team to do this or to do that. And that's actually a very good thing, that you're capable of sort of adapting to what the week calls for. And, Chris, there are plenty of years, we've talked about this before this season, where it's like, oof, quarterback doesn't have a spectacular statistical game, you got no shot to win. Or if this doesn't happen, or if that doesn't happen. And I know there are still key things, like say number 28, that you need to happen every week to give yourself the best chance to win. But call it bipolar, call it being a chameleon, call it being versatile, call it whatever you want. I just feel like you are a sort of well-rounded team where a lot of different things can be called upon within a game, given whatever that set of 4 quarters is asking for. And you're sort of able to meet that challenge. that may be too optimistic or too rosy of a way to describe it for some. I don't know. Describe it however you want to, but that's kind of the way I'm feeling through 6 weeks. Is you've got different components of your team you can call on depending on what's going on that particular Saturday. So I'm counting that as a good thing.
And I said this in the reaction episode, but don't get caught up into the minutia of how you get to there. As long as you get to there,
100%.
I mean, 100%. That is all that matters. And I just hope people will give this aspect of getting from A to B, give it a big hug, man, and hold on tight because it's hard to do. I mean, there's coaches that are going to lose their jobs. There's coaches that are on the hot seat. There is quarterbacks that are going to lose their jobs, whatever. When you can't win the close games and it starts to stack up, right now you're winning them all, and I think if you can kind of, keep that going, there could be something really fun for you over the next month to 6 weeks. So, but it's going to take a lot. And, you've got 6 of them left, 3 away, 3 home, and, it's all manageable, but and at some point, I'll say this too. We got asked a question on the mailbag episode before the weekend about Barron, and what puts him higher on the list, and and I said if you go win the game, and he's a big reason why. I don't know if you come away from this going like, oh, Barron, he won you the game. He made some throws. But I think it was defense and it was maybe your running game and all that stuff. But at some point, not only will you need him to, he's going to come through for you. He's going to be a big reason why you do this and be a part of that team aspect. But right now, the biggest thing that he's doing is being really smart with the football. And I can't emphasize that enough because I think his 7-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, that travels. That travels.
No
and
doubt.
those two picks were in the same game, and that was a loss. And he got blitzed by Arizona quite a bit, and they got home some. But I just thought he handled it well, and for the most part, it was it looked a little rickety there in the second half. I get it, and Arizona's good. I mean, that's a defense that shut down and out physicaled Utah in their home stadium when that just doesn't happen. Freshman quarterback or not, they punched Utah right in the mouth, and I thought you took some punches up front, and Barron did and all that, but you swung away at the end, and that's all that ultimately matters.
Yeah, man. Style points. Yeah, I'm here for it. Do not care. I'm here for wins. I mean, I was texting back and forth with one of our Matador Mob insiders, Brandon. Appreciate the conversation, Brandon, who was talking about happy with the win, but it's so frustrating. I said, "What's frustrating?" Oh, the third quarter. I'm sorry. Show me where there's a win-loss record for the third freaking quarter. Who cares? The end of the day, you scored more points than they did. That's all it's about. I have such a hard time identifying with those type of thoughts, but I know you're out there, and you can keep kicking them my way because I love to hear from any of those Matador mobsters out there. Become one if you haven't so far. Check the link there in the show notes. Try on a free 14-day trial. If you like it, you can continue to ride on for less than a cup of coffee a month at your direct line to Chris and myself.
And I will tell you, I appreciated all the thoughts that people sent my way that when TCU went down on Friday night. I
a lot of people checking in with you.
I appreciate the sentiment, people, because I was maybe paying attention to that one. But then again, I'm thinking like, this is the league, man. I mean, Willie Fritz was going to get somebody, and he got TCU and
16-point favorite.
A lot of questions
against the team that hadn't scored in 2 weeks. I mean, it's just college football.
And then you look up and they roll into a opposing stadium. They're up 24-6. Makes sense of it. You can't.
Oh, of course, yeah. Hey, by the way, people were paying attention also. Thank you to those Matador mobsters who were keeping a close eye on Chris Level in Tucson. I was getting reports from the stands like, all right, well, no do-rag or skull cap, but I did see an Uncrustable just broken out. I think we're ready to go. So I appreciate you're being heavily monitored as well, Chris. Could be a little frightening. Keep your head on a swivel. But nonetheless, I enjoyed the reports. Keep the Uncrustables going. We fended off the do-rag for at least one more week. And like you said, hang it in the Louvre. Style points or otherwise. It was a thing of beauty when you're picking up a road Big 12 win. Man, appreciate the time, and we will keep it rolling throughout the open week. Got a lot of things to get to as we can kind of assess what has happened so far through the first half of this regular season for Texas Tech, with every opportunity you want still out in front of you and intact at this time. Appreciate your time as always, man. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you for the next one.
Yeah, and as I told the Matador Mob folks at about 2 a.m, and I'll say it to our lot audience as well here, I love you all. It was a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the week, people. Be proud. Puff your chest out if you want to. You've earned that right, at least for another couple of weeks. So enjoy it. Winning is hard to do, man. And when it comes your way, man, enjoy the heck out of it. So I know that I will. So yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good rest of your Monday or whenever you're watching this, and we will talk to you next time.
It's an everybody love everybody week, and that's a lot easier to do when you're winning instead of losing.
ELE.
Thanks especially to those everydayers who we are loving out there, mixing it up. One of the best ways to help us grow the show, commenting anything below. So thanks to those who are doing that regularly. Make sure you get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks for being out there, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.